It's an opportunity you can't afford to miss. You won't be spending money, you'll be saving it. Pays for itself in a season. Yes, that's right. Abrasive, aggressive, bags a nerve. Well, here goes.
Yes?
Madam, I represent the Snuggersabug Double Glazing Company. This is an opportunity you can't afford to miss.
Double glazing? No, I don't think so.
An opportunity you can't afford to miss. You won't be spending money, you'll be saving it. Pays for itself in a season. It's the finest do-it-yourself pack on the market.
But I never do it myself.
Corrosion-proof anodized aluminium frames throughout.
No, really, I don't.
Siliconized inner surface prevents condensation. Snuggersabug cuts heat loss, prevents drafts.
Speaking of that...
Yes?
Isn't your foot in a draft?
Ah.
Let's get rid of these. Do you like this? Define, isn't it? They tell me this is what's known as a sales training film. I'm happy to say I know nothing whatever about selling. On the other hand, I do know rather a lot about buying. And one thing I'm sure about, no one ever hectored me into buying anything. And this is where I've been asked to say something a bit pontifical. Telling is not selling. I think it's supposed to be written up on the screen, too. Ah, good. Telling is not selling. And I hope someone tells that to the young man who came to the door.
Can I give you a hand with anything?
No, darling, just coming. No, telling is not selling. I've got a feeling that selling is rather more subtle than that.
Hello, darling. Would you like a sherry?
Yes, I think I will. Hard day at the office, darling.
Oh, exhausting.
For you. How long is it since we had a holiday? Must be over a year.
Oh, but a holiday's not on, darling. The firm just couldn't cope without me.
I know. That's why you must look after yourself. What would happen if you were ill?
Chaos. The mind boggles.
You've been looking very pale recently.
Really?
Oh, pale and interesting. Don't you feel you need a holiday? You really ought to get away from it all. Blue sea, warm sun, somewhere exotic.
Somewhere, say, like a trip to the West Indies?
What a good idea. Oh, darling, you are clever. It's just what you need. Well, perhaps I do know the tiniest bit about selling after all. Enough to know there's no such thing. No, really. Nobody ever sold anyone anything. The trick is to help them decide to buy. The people who succeed in helping me to decide are always the ones who take the trouble to find out what I need. And I suppose that means they have to communicate. Communicate with one, not at one. Communication with is two-way communication. There, I've said it. I promised I would. Two-way communication. And how does one get it started? Well, of course, if one leads any kind of social life, one soon learns the way. So, you're down for the weekend. How did you get here from Oxford, by train?
No, I hitched, actually.
What progress are you making with the council about the Dartmouth Road scheme?
As a matter of fact, I saw the chairman of the planning committee this afternoon.
Where did you book for?
Oh, Corsica again. We love it there.
Excuse me, darling. Peter, would you like to come and meet Susie? Oh, rather. Excuse me.
Did you spot it? I'm sure you did. We asked questions. Really, it's too easy. Just ask questions and two-way communication follows. Take that rather unfortunate double glazing salesman. He might have done better if he'd started by asking questions. Double glazing? I don't think so.
Just as you like, madam. But would you mind telling me how much your heating bills came to last winter?
Heaven knows. But my husband nearly had a seizure when he wrote the cheque.
Well, don't you think you might be interested in finding a way of cutting that bill by at least 10%?
Of course he would.
And you, madam, don't you find there are some rooms in the house which are just a bit chilly despite the central heating?
Well, the pink room does face north, and when the wind's in that direction...
Just a sheet of glass between you and Siberia. No wonder your husband's worried about bills.
Well, if you really think it would make all that difference... So, in he came. And I must say the house is much warmer. So ask questions. Ah, I believe we're due for some more of that nice handwriting. Yes, there it is. Ask questions. Rule 1 of good two-way communication. You see, I find when a salesperson, what an odd word, when a salesperson starts asking me questions, I begin to think properly about my needs, perhaps for the first time. And so I'm rather well disposed to accept his solution. That's why asking questions is so terribly important. But what sort of questions? Shall we try an experiment? Well, Gordon, did you win the rugger match on Saturday?
No, we lost.
Oh, dear. End of conversation. Let's try again. What a shame. Did you watch?
Yes.
It's not my day. One more try. Tell me, darling, I've often wondered, what do you find to enjoy about watching rugger?
Well, darling, it's not often one gets the chance to see 30 enormous, healthy young men rushing around in little shorts. Rucking.
Whatting?
Rucking, darling. It's what they call getting down in the scrum.
Fascinating. But why do you suppose my first 2 questions drew a blank, while the third got them talking? Could it be because the first 2 were dead-end questions leading to just yes or no, but the third question led to communication, because it started with the word what? What do you find to enjoy about watching rugger? There's a verse by Rudyard Kipling that puts it rather well. I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. There. And of the 6, perhaps the most effective is why.
Well, fair enough, Mr. Hazeldine. But can I ask you, why aren't you taking on any more lines?
Why? Well, we're on excellent terms with our present suppliers. Excuse me. They give us a good discount, too.
Better than the one we're offering.
Well, maybe not.
So why won't you take our range, Mr. Hazeldine?
Well, to tell you the truth, it's the competition.
That discount warehouse down on the trading estate.
Oh, that's the one. But it's mainly rubbish they sell, and no choice but ruthless cut prices.
Well, why don't you fight them with a wider range and better quality?
It really does pay to ask questions, especially searching questions. But that's really only half the story, isn't it? I mean, it's not much good asking questions if you're like my husband, Charles.
At university, are you? Jolly good. What are you reading? I read classical history myself. Never did me the blindest bit of good. Not a lot called for it in the city anyway. Mind you, I have time.
I'm reading chemistry.
That's a bit more practical. Lots of jobs for boffins these days, especially physicists. What are you planning to do? Nuclear power, that sort of thing?
I'm reading chemistry, not physics.
Not that one's career very often turns out the way one planned it. Take me, for instance. I had my mind made up on the regular army.
Our guests, Charles. Some of them are getting rather thirsty.
Oh, right. Excuse me. Must go and play the genial host, you know? You must tell me more about yourself later.
Mustn't mind Charles. He's always asking questions and never listens to the answers. And I'm afraid he's not the only one. Do you ever forget to listen? I've noticed even quite good salesmen do it. Like the one in the wallpaper shop.
Here's another line that would interest you, Mr. Hazeldine. We're now agents for these Spanish wall tiles. Pure cork, self-adhesive backing.
No, I don't want to diversify too much. You see, any spare shelf space, I want to...
They're very much the in thing at the top end of the market. My other customers tell me they're running off the shelves.
No, you see, any spare space I want to devote to wallpaper.
I can offer you a very attractive introductory discount. If you take, say, 5 gross. On 5 gross, I can give you 2.5% on the first 2 gross and 5% on the other 3.
No!
I know it's absolutely no business of mine, but I think you've missed a trick. If you, Mr. Hazeldine, would be very kind and go back to your line about not wanting to diversify.
Eh?
Please, Mr. Hazeldine, it really is rather important.
Oh, well, all right.
Thank you.
Feels a bit daft to me, though.
Thank you so much. And if you would just listen this time. Right. Off we go.
I feel a right Charlie. Oh, well. I don't want to diversify too much. Any spare shelf space...
Do go on.
Well, any spare shelf space I want to devote to wallpaper. In fact, I'm looking for display panels, new ways of merchandising and so on.
It's very interesting, Mr. Hazeldine. I believe we can help you there. You see, my firm supplies special display panels for a selected range of our latest designs.
Oh. Well, I'd be interested in seeing some of those.
So remember, you must always listen. It's rule 2 of good two-way communication. Of course, in order to listen properly, one has to stop talking oneself. And that can sometimes mean a pause, even an awkward pause. Now, I might find that embarrassing, but then I'm a customer. A salesperson shouldn't find it in the least bit embarrassing. In my experience, when a salesperson keeps quiet and doesn't rush to fill the gap with his own chatter, I'm virtually forced to communicate. Rather as Mr. Hazeldine was just now. Remember?
So why won't you take our lines, Mr. Hazeldine?
Well, to tell you the truth, it's the competition.
Yes, silence can be a powerful weapon. Not that I care much for that word. After all, if I'm being sold something, I don't want to feel I'm being attacked. I expect the salesperson to be on my side. And that brings us to another important aspect of two-way communication. Ah, Digby, I see by the glint in your eye you're recruiting for the conservation group.
Well, what about it, my dear?
Lady Bloomfield's on the committee, isn't she?
Well, we've got to have a few stuffed owls.
Lady Bloomfield is a very good friend of mine.
Sorry, but what I mean is we're not in the business to put the past in pickle for its own sake. Take the Dartmouth Road scheme, for example.
Isn't that where they want to tear down that divine Georgian terrace?
What we're up in arms against is that it's a kids' play street.
Oh.
So we're organising a march on the town hall, all dressed up as kids, with hoops, footballs, roller skates and things.
Dressed up as children?
A good idea, eh? Sure to attract the media. Probably be on the box.
You mean you'd like to be seen on the television in a pair of shorts?
Well, you'll be seen in a jockstrap if it gets things done. And you could come on a skateboard, dressed in a mini gym slip, and carrying a teddy bear.
Are you sure you wouldn't prefer me to carry a stuffed owl?
Ah, yes, very good.
A very insensitive man. I happen to be extremely fond of Lady Bloomfield. I also happen to think the Georgian terrace is worth preserving for its own sake. And I am not the sort of person who would wish to be seen on a skateboard. But then for him, I was just a potential member of his conservation group, wasn't I? He'd lost sight of the real me. And we do resent it, you know, we customers, I mean, being looked on as just another potential buyer.